Al Jazeera has learned that Oman has sent a proposal to Iran on jointly managing the Strait of Hormuz. The crucial waterway has effectively been closed since the start of the war between the U.S. and Iran. That's had a huge impact on crucial exports from the Gulf, including oil, gas, and fertilizers. Sources tell us Oman's joint mechanism with Iran would see countries pay a voluntary toll to pass the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has demanded a mandatory fee and that ships use pre-approved routes. Qatar, the world's second largest liquefied natural gas producer, is warning of shipment delays. The state-owned firm, QatarEnergy, has told one of its biggest European buyers that it won't be able to deliver LNG until late September. Major buyers in Asia have already been told the disruptions could run into October. Before the war, around a fifth of the world's LNG and a quarter of the world's crude oil flowed through the Strait of Hormuz. That's now down to a trickle. The strait also carried around 30% of the world's maritime fertilizer trade, making it vital for global food supply chains. Al Jazeera's Osama bin Javed has covered the diplomatic efforts extensively, and he joins us now on set. Osama, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Look, we mentioned before that Qatar has warned of more delays to liquefied natural gas exports because of these disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, and they're blocking global energy supplies. Just bring our viewers up to speed as to how significant this is. Certainly, this isn't the first time we've heard this from Qatar, but the fact that it's happening again, what does this mean?
Well, I was speaking to industry experts during the day, and they tell me this is hugely significant because you're now talking about the third quarter of 2026. The financial quarter, as you remember, the war started in February. The first two quarters are gone. In the third quarter, the QatarEnergy, the largest energy supplier here in this country, is telling consumers and customers that it will not be able to fulfill its orders for the third quarter. It's hugely significant for the global energy supply chains and industry. The Qataris provide about a fifth of global liquefied natural gas. It has one of the largest fleets of gas carriers in the world, and it is going to have a knock-on effect on the economies as well as the other elements of the industry which is related to this. On the diplomatic front, you're seeing the movements. The Omanis have had conversations with the GCC after this so-called proposal that they've floated with the Iranians. There's been the Pakistani Interior Minister who's been in Doha to try and propel these efforts forward as these two sides remain deeply involved in getting the messages across. But at the heart of it is the Strait of Hormuz, which still remains closed. Ships are not able to pass. Navigation remains a major hurdle, and the Iranians and the Omanis still have not reached a final conclusion on how this toll is going to be charged and what will it mean for the gas industry and the oil industry, not just for Qatar, but the entire region. Because if today there is an agreement, it will require them at least 6 to 8 weeks to reopen their gas wells.
I'm glad you brought up the knock-on effects. That's what I wanted to ask you about next. I want to bring up a map that we have here of the Strait of Hormuz. This is the chokehold that we're talking about right now. You see there the northern route, you see the southern route. This is all the negotiations, all the mediation that's going on right now is about trying to reopen what is effectively a chokehold to get things flowing again. Now, when we're talking about exports not happening right now, we're not just talking about oil, we're not just talking about gas, we're also talking about things like fertilizer. You mentioned knock-on effects. I want to ask you about that. What kind of impact is that having not just on regional markets, global markets, but also just on ordinary people in countries?
Absolutely. So everything is interconnected. And as you see these two routes, the northern and southern route, it just goes to show that on the bottom end is the coast of Oman. And that is why the Omanis also have territorial claim over these waters. The southern route remains contested. And in this narrow chokehold is essentially a fifth of global energy supplies. You're just reaching now the European winters where the stocks are already historically low at 45%. The Qatar gas and Qatar Ras Laffan plant has not been able to export gas since June. So there is a major knock-on effect on the economies of this region. It is not just QatarEnergy. The supply routes have also been disrupted for the UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia. Jazan Aramco refinery was hit in the last 48 hours. So there's an economic impact in the region. but the real impact is on the globe. As I mentioned, European gas supplies, you're going to see real pinch in the markets if this continues in the next few months. And then once there is fewer gas that is available, there's going to be larger competition. Big consumers and richer consumers such as the Chinese and the Europeans will be able to compete with each other. But that would leave out essentially big chunks of populations. Countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh who do not have those deep pockets to buy really, really expensive energy. And then it is not just about keeping the lights on. It is also about manufacturing fertilizer from this feedstock, from importing fertilizer. QAFCO is the world's largest fertilizer supplier of the world. And that is why a negotiated settlement is so important, because if it doesn't reach now, you're not just talking about lamps and lights being open, you're talking about industries and agriculture and feeding entire populations, which is going to be impacted.
Osama bin Javed, you have covered so many aspects of this conflict for so long now. Thank you so much for your reporting. Thank you for helping us make sense of it all. Appreciate it.